The thing's a missile, guys.
Today we're gonna make a very easy beginner-friendly bow that also offers a pretty good amount of performance and doesn't break the bank. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is go to Home Depot or Lowe's, go to their lumber department, search for red oak. You'll find a bunch of boards that look just like this. You're gonna look through the boards for a couple of characteristics. Let me point them out for you. Two things you wanna look for: parallel grain on the top. You don't want shoot-offs that run off the sides. And then on the end cuts, you want some diagonal cuts. Go on Three Rivers, get a piece of fiberglass. They sell them in 72 inches. They'll be 1.5 inches wide, 72 inches long. Pick up one of these. Okay, the next thing you're gonna need is some type of adhesive. If you're only making one bow, I would advise getting Titebond 3. Doesn't break the bank. If you're only gonna make one, just go with this. If you're gonna make, say 10 bows, 50 bows, 100 bows, buy some EA40. EA40 comes in 2 containers just like this. It's a part 1, part 2. You mix equal parts of both of these, you mix them together, they'll catalyze, and then you have a working time of about an hour, so you don't really have to hurry. The reason that EA40 is preferred is because it's stronger, because it's an epoxy, it's not a glue. But the thing with most epoxies is they harden and become brittle. This is archery epoxy, so when it hardens and cures, it's still gonna be slightly malleable. So that'll allow those bow limbs to kind of bend still, and you won't have to worry about them, all the epoxy in between kind of cracking along the way. So first thing you're gonna wanna do is measure 68 inches, cut off the excess. With the excess piece, you're gonna have about 14 inches, cut that into an 8-inch piece, and put the 8-inch piece, that's gonna be your handle kind of riser section, right? So glue that right in the middle. Glue that in with Titebond 3. Don't use EA40 to put the handle on. You can, but it's just kind of faster and easier to just use the Titebond. And the handle section is now glued onto the 68-inch section directly in the center. I'm gonna wait for that to cure, and then we'll get to the next part. All right, it's the next day. The handle is completely cured on there, and we've got it in the vise. First thing you wanna do is draw a center line and then go 2 inches, 2 inches. So just 2-inch intervals right here. There's gonna be 4 of them. Next step is to set your compass up so that it's gonna draw a width of 7/16 of an inch. And you're gonna draw that thickness onto both limbs. Set the metal part of your compass on the back of the bow, not the belly, because you're gonna be removing the belly wood. Just put it on there, go nice and slow. Okay, same thing on the other side. Now we need to do our fade out. What are we gonna use for the radius of those? I'm just gonna use a dinner plate. The approximate diameter across this is just shy of 11 inches. Because this is red oak and not Osage, I want the fade outs to be much more gradual than I normally do. Okay, so when we draw these on, the lines that we're interested in, from the edge of the handle, go 2 inches in. The one on the belly side right here. So we're starting at that point, and then we're just gonna use the plate, and wherever the plate lines up with our 7/16 line or width, that's where we're gonna draw our fade out. So for me, it's right here. Okay, nice. And then you get that smooth intersection right here. Show you a nice picture of that. So that's our fade out, right? I'm gonna do the same thing on the other 3. All right guys, at this stage, we got the fade outs drawn on. We go from full handle thickness, we got a 4-inch handle height, and then it goes to our fades, which are very, very gradual. I'm doing super gradual fades because this red oak is not nearly as strong compressive force-wise when compared to Osage. So we've got all those ready to go. Now, the next step is just actually carving off the wood. So I'm sure you guys don't want to watch me just use a draw knife, so I'm going to skip to the part where all this wood is just off of there. We chased both limbs with draw knife. Now we're going to move on to farrier's rasp and hit these lines exactly. The purpose of the farrier's rasp is to get right down to these lines that we drew. So I got super close with the draw knife, but you don't want to go straight down to those lines because you can have grain tear out, and then you'll have a weak point in your bow. So get close to the lines with draw knife, switch over to farrier's rasp. I already used the farrier's rasp on this side, and you can see how planar it is. So that's the main purpose. You want to start in the middle, and then as you use it, it will kind of widen until the whole thing is one level plane. Okay, we're now done with the farrier's rest part. For the most part, we can't really hit up in here until we knock out these fade outs with the chisel. So we're gonna use chisel for the next part. Now for this part, the sharper that your chisel is, the more luck you're gonna have. If you're trying to knock off wood with a dull chisel, it's gonna put way more impact into the handle. And in the past, when I've tried to use a dull chisel, I've actually knocked one of these handles off. So make sure your chisel is nice and sharp, like you want it to just kind of glide through that wood. Now, as you can see, when you're trying to hit this curve and get it real nice and smooth, using the fat part of your rasp is not ideal. Use the side. It has little gritted teeth as well, and it can get, because of it's so narrow, it can get in that radius a lot better. So that is a lot better than this, where you're gonna have a gap right underneath here. I'm just gonna do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll go to the next step. We've got the handle, we've got the fade outs kind of going. You can see those right there. We've got both the limbs to relatively final thickness. Okay, so everything that I've said thus far, you could just do all that and then shape these limbs and kind of narrow out the limb tips and everything, and then put a string on it, and it's pretty much good to go. But if you want a high performance bow, it's not gonna be of the highest performance, but it's surely a heck of a lot better than just a red oak board, then continue. But let me show you how it's bending right now. Now it's gonna look like it's bending, like it's already floor tillered just because of the 7/16 thickness. But what I like to do, if I'm gonna put fiberglass in the A40 on, fiberglass in the A40 will add a lot of poundage. So prior to putting that on, I actually would like the limbs to bend a little bit more than if I were looking for a 60-pound bow, you know? Because with red oak, you probably don't want to exceed 55 pounds as a goal weight. It'll put too much compressive stress on the red oak and it will collapse the limb. So I would say do not exceed 55 pounds with a bow like this. And if you're a beginner, 55 pounds is probably more than enough for you to feel like you're pulling back something heavy. Okay, let me show you the tiller right now. Now I haven't put this on a tilling tree at all. This is just after the rasp work. But we already have a pretty decent little bend. Looks like it's bending a little more here than here. So I might do a little rasp work down at the bottom. Now if I were in your shoes, one of the questions that I would have is, why haven't we put the fiberglass backing on yet and then done the tillering? So that's a great question. So something cool about using fiberglass in the A40 is whatever shape that epoxy sets in, that will be the terminal shape of your limbs. So if you set it with back set and it's curving upwards, like say the limb tips were kind of curving like a U, and you have it set like that, and you let the epoxy cure in that way, whenever you take it out of the clamps and everything, that's how it will be. So because I want to achieve a little bit of back set just to make the bow a little faster, what I'm thinking is that the handle section, we glued this on. This is not, if this was a one piece, we would have already put the backing on, but because it's a glue on for the handle, if we would have left these limbs full thickness and then bent it into that U, there would have been a constant kind of tension on this, and that tension could have caused this glue block to come off. But now, because the fade outs are still full thickness, it's the entire handle section is still full thickness, and I actually did a pretty long fade. So this part of the limb out to here is still pretty strong. So the only part of this bow that's gonna wanna bend is the limbs. That's why we thinned them out first, so that we can put them in a back set form and not have to worry about popping our handle off. That's very important. Okay, so right here we've got a rough setup for the jig that we're gonna use. I just kind of put this together just to show you how easy it is. Take a 2x4, that's a full length 2x4, that's 8 feet. And then just do a couple cuts. And you're gonna have one that's 3 inches tall here, one that's 3 inches tall there. And those are spaced 10.5 inches
from the center. And now if you go 21 inches over from center all the way out, we've got a 2x4 just laying on its side, and it's 21 inches to the beginning of that block from our origin, from our center point. And then if you just clamp both sides, you can see it makes a very nice uniform back set. So we're good to go on the jig. The next step is probably the biggest pain in the butt when it comes to making laminated bows. It's kind of broad term is the glue up, right? So it's kind of make or break. You got to do it right. You got to have everything prepared beforehand. We've got our jig just right. Now we have not prepared our fiberglass or our bow, other than just structurally preparing them. We also need to wipe them down with something like acetone to remove any oil or finger kind of grease residue that's on those that will potentially prohibit those two things from binding to their maximum capacity. So I'm gonna go clean those up real quick. Just take a cloth, some acetone, clean your fiberglass, clean the back of your bow, get everything ready to go, and lay a long strip of saran wrap on the ground. When we come back, all that will be in progress. Okay, so let me walk you through what we've got here. We've got saran wrap, about 75, 80 inches of it. We've got our fiberglass, we've got our bow sitting right next to it. Both of those are already pre-cleaned, acetone. Then we've got part 1, part 2, EA40, both open. We've got some string, which we're gonna use to wrap after the saran wrap is around it. Then we've got a bunch of ace bandages and a cabinet scraper. I've also got an old kitchen knife, which I like to use the back of or the spine. Sometimes I use that to help spread it. So we've got our bow fully wrapped. Now we're gonna put it into our jig and then we're done for the day. We just let it cure for a full day. So one cool thing about doing this is that stave, if you look down, it was not perfectly linear, but I knew that during glue up, I would have kind of enough pressure from the clamps and the pressure pushing up at these blocks to adjust it and make it perfectly in line. And then as the epoxy hardens, it will cure just like that. Kind of same reasoning for how we're applying the back set. However you set it in there, however it cures, that's how it's gonna be when it's unstrung. Just gonna apply all my other clamps. This is our end product for today. Got a nice curve, looks very uniform. Just a reminder, that whole last step where we did the EA40, you can use Titebond, or you can even use super glue. I've seen somebody do that and it actually held up. I was very surprised. So don't worry about breaking the bank with the EA40. It is a total pain in the butt to use, but it gives you a lot more kind of properties to mess with. So if I wouldn't have done EA40 and I only would have done Titebond, I may not have gotten the same back set. I may not have been able to straighten the stave out. So just a couple things to consider. But for today, that's about all we can do. I need to wait for this to cure completely, and then we'll unwrap it and kind of see how we did. See you guys tomorrow. All right guys, beginning of day 3, we're gonna unclamp this thing, then I'll unwrap it and we'll see how we did. All right, that's sick. A little bit of back set just naturally in there, that's great. Awesome. It's good to know that future laminated ones that I do, I could push it a hell of a lot farther. It doesn't hold 100% of that curve. It holds, let me see like approximately how much it holds. Maybe half
half to 2/3 of the back set that we tried to put in. So I'll exaggerate that a little more in future builds. Let's get this thing unwrapped, see how good of a glue up we got. Took off the Ace bandages. I took off as much of the plastic wrap as I could. Some of it is just adhered to kind of the sides and the back. But I checked out the glue lines and made sure everything was pretty well adhered. And it looks pretty good overall. I'm just gonna clean it up and then I'll come back. Good amount of time on the belt sander, just kind of getting all the plastic wrap, the glue residue and everything off of there. We got it real nice and smooth now. We kind of sanded down the limbs a little bit. We still haven't shaped the handle, but we did get all the excess glue off of there. The next step is to draw on our limb shapes. So we drew center line down the whole thing. Down here, we got a 1/2 inch total width. It's slightly more than that, but I like to leave myself a little bit of grace. You measure 12 inches from the tip, put a hash. That is gonna be the start of the narrowing of your limb tip. So from handle section all the way will be a constant width. That'll be about 1.5 inches. And then when you get 12 inches from the tip, it will start to narrow down to a 1/2 inch at the end. Handle section. So we know where the middle of our bow was. It was right here. So we just redrew that hash across the middle, measured 2 inches up, 2 inches down, so we get our 4-inch handle. Now we also did little fade outs, fade out, fade out, fade out. I'm doing very quick lateral fade outs because I want to keep as much of that integrity at this point as possible. Next step, we're gonna take this over to the shave horse. We're gonna narrow these out with the draw knife. Narrow that out with the draw knife, and then we'll do some sanding. This part and this part, we will probably just do that solely with the belt sander because I really want the handle to have full integrity when I get done. I'm sure you guys don't just want to watch me like buzz on something for 30 minutes, so we gotta take care of this. I'll show you kind of how it bends, and we'll check the floor tiller. We've got the limbs narrowed down. Starting to look very much like a bow. We started shaping the handle a little bit. Definitely gonna have to round these edges off. At this stage, it really comes down to like personal preference for a lot of this. The best place to see how to make bows on my channel, go to my homepage, click playlists, go to traditional archery, watch any of those videos. Floor tiller, how to use the wall tiller, and I go into all of it. So be sure to check that out. Just draw 2 diagonals, maybe 1 centimeter from the tip. Diagonal, diagonal. Take a little mini hacksaw, go at an angle, maybe 45 degrees for that one, 45 degrees for this one. Make sure that your angle is pointing towards your handle. So you see how that's pointing towards the handle's right there. That's what it'll look like after you do the cuts. It literally takes about a minute to do one. I found an old string I had lying around. It was for a 68-inch bow. It is real heavy right now. I'm gonna unstring it, thin it out, really take a lot of the poundage off, and then we'll restring it. Man guys, even getting the string off that thing was a pain in the ass. Look at this. Still has all the back set, even after stringing it at way too heavy of a poundage. Keep thinning these limbs out. I've spent a lot of time tillering this thing to pretty much perfection. 68 inches, long bow. I did that because Red Oak's just a little weaker. I wanted kind of a safety factor built in, but I'm also really glad I did it because it looks awesome. Just like the long length and everything. It kind of reminds me of like a Lord of the Rings bow, a little bit. Let me show you what the profile looks like right now. This is the cool thing about making bows, and this is why I love it so much. You get towards the end and it turns you right back into a little kid. Like when you're so excited to just see how it fires, or see how it shoots, see how it does. That happens every time I make one. Whenever I get to the ending stages, I can't wait to just get out there and shoot it. That's why I'm like so excited and I try so hard to get you guys to build bows, is because I want y'all to feel the way I feel at the end of the builds. Like it's one of the coolest feelings. I'm not even gonna lie to you. This thing is nuts. Like this, my expectations for Red Oak with fiberglass, they were here. This thing, boom, like it's so silent
and it's quick. I mean, it's dark outside in the back, and I was shooting the thing straight into the dots on the target, like I was picking dots. I only shot it like 5 times, but holy cow, this thing blew my mind. I'm gonna wait until tomorrow morning because here it's like late and dark, so it'd be kind of crap to film. But tomorrow morning, I'll do the final sanding. I'll put the teak oil on. We might even do a stain because it's red oak. I mean, this thing's awesome. It just has me so excited for the fact that you guys are gonna be able to make your own and kind of feel the way I feel right now. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Look forward to it, man. All right, guys, next day, I just did the final sanding. I decided that I'm not gonna put an arrow shelf in. I like the aesthetic of it, kind of with the universal handle. So if somebody is left or right-handed, they can do both. But let me show you how it turned out. So full length, boom. I know the part you guys want to see is you want to see it shoot. So let's go up back and let's put some arrows through it.
That was awesome. So, I don't know if y'all could even hear it, but there's almost no noise with this bow. Like, it's so quiet, it's unbelievable. I think we got a winner, guys. You know, I hate to say this, but I don't know how far off this bow is from my Osage bow. Like, speed-wise, they're similar. It's so smooth. Like, unbelievably smooth. It feels so nice to shoot. You guys have got to make one of these. So go through the beginning of the video meticulously, and I would do the exact same dimensions that I did. And if you guys are half decent at tailoring, you'll get a great bow. It's ridiculous. The draw weight on this bow ended up being right at 50 pounds. It was like 49.6 when I was at 28 inches. So at 29, it's probably right around 50, 51. I normally don't dress my bows up too much just because I make quite a few of them. So I just kind of cycle through. But I like this one enough, I might actually stain it. The thing's a missile, guys. So I want you guys to think about this. This bow, I've made a lot of bows, and I really like the way this one feels, and you guys can easily duplicate this like tomorrow if you wanted to. Because because it's a board bow, you don't even have to worry about waiting for the wood to season. You could get started on this as soon as you go buy your board, and as soon as your fiberglass slat comes in from Three Rivers. I mean, get going. This thing's awesome. Let's maybe do one more. Yeah, that was a nice one to end on. That's freaking dead center. All right, check it out. So I like it so much, I stained it. This one feels very Lord of the Rings to me. Turned out awesome. I like it a lot. Looks real sharp. I can't say it enough. You guys, if you wanna get started making a bow, this is the first one you should make, because I can almost guarantee you that it's gonna turn out well. You're gonna end up with a very high performing bow if you follow this video and do kind of the steps that I outlined. I really hope that you guys decide to make your own bow. Because it kind of looks a little Lord of the Ringsy, I want you to give me the best name you can think of, and then best name may win something in the future. Comment down below what you think the name of that bow could be. I want it to be fitting. Just kind of use Lord of the Rings as your guide, that world. And it's a 68-inch longbow. It's dark in color. Try to use that stuff as well. But best name, leave it in the comments. You could potentially win something cool. Always remember, live what you love.